what it is and what it do. It is that time again, the MEAC'n Up Hour. I'm Brother B Free from the Names Are Not Important podcast. And I'm here with my brothers, once again, Brother Mac and Brother McKee, better known as Mackie. And like we always like to do, we want to give some opening shout outs to not only just y'all who are checking us out, but just in general, those people we want to shout out. And as always, as I like to do, I like to shout out my Benedict College Tigers. Shout out to the Tigers. I'll get into the accolades later. But let me pass it to Brother Mackey. Brother Mackey, you got any shout outs before we get rolling?
Hey, good evening, gentlemen. Good to see you both. I got a few shout outs. I got one shout out to big shout out to the I can't see the screen for the Big Benedict coffee
Oh,
cup. I'm sorry. You
y'all.
blinded me. Is that real ivory? Um a couple shout outs. First shout out I wanted to do real quick was to the Greensboro crop walk today. Big shout out to the ministers, to the congregations, to the citizens of Greensboro, North Carolina, who came out to walk for hunger. And as many of you know, there's over 12 million hungry children in our nation right now. It's at an all-time high. So what a timely event for what we have going on in our country. Second shout out is big shout out to Little Brother and the block party they had this weekend. Y'all might talk some about that later.
Made in
Or
Durham.
Made in Durham. Big shout out to Fonte, the rapper Big Pooh, and Zoe, and Big Crit, and what's the singing brother that tore it down, Ben? What's his
Darren
name?
Brockton. Darren Brockton.
Oh man, that brother is bad. So big shout out to that. And my last shout out is to I forgot. I'm gonna pass it to you, D. D in the building.
Mac, Brother Mac, we see you with Sparty in the background. Shout out to the
Go Sparty.
UNC, the UNC Hey Spartans. Go ahead, brother. You got some
Hey,
shout outs? Anything?
no shout outs, man. Just ready to get started. It's big boy season. So let's get into that. I walked outside yesterday, it was 48 degrees in the morning. It's big boy season. We're back in full effect.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Glad to be back. Glad to be back. So, listen, let's start it off like this. We're going to start with the CIAA. We're going to start with the CIAA. Because there was some shockers this weekend. And then some things that went down and make you say, okay, is this who we thought they were? In the words of was it Dennis Green or Herm Edwards? They were who we thought they were.
That was Dennis Green.
That was Dennis Green.
That was Dennis Green.
In our case, some that we might say they weren't who we thought they were. So let me start with what might have been the biggest upset of the week. Well, I ain't gonna say biggest upset. The biggest upset might have come last week, the shocker. But now they doubled down and beat a good team. And I'm talking about no other. I'm not talking about the blue field out in Boise. The blue turf, I mean. Because I don't want the Bluefield State people to get mad. I'm not talking about the blue field. But what I'm talking about is the blue turf down there in Salisbury, North Carolina. And that is the blue turf of the Livingstone Bears, who shocked the CI by beating Bowie State and now come back with another great win and a close one against Winston-Salem State, beating them by a narrow margin of 2 points, 23-21. Now, McKee, I'm gonna start with you as a former Ram, man. How you feel about this? How you feel about this?
Uh, I, Let me say this.
Yeah, take your time.
It's never a good day in Winston-Salem when we lose to Livingstone by any margin, but a heartbreak of 2 points hurts even worse. Conferences don't stay the same, programs don't stay the same. Just like people, you're either getting better or you're falling. And their names in all these conferences that we know that used to be perennial powerhouses that are no longer running the table like they once did. I regret to say we're one of those. And there's nothing more lonely than the remainder of a CIAA season and you're out of the hunt for the championship. One thing people don't realize about black college football, it's front loaded towards the beginning of the season. That's when you have a lot of your classics, your rivalry games at Winston-Salem State. Some people used to say when we opened up with North Carolina A&T, it was downhill from there. And division, this is not HBCU2, and I'm going to make this brief. This is not just HBCU sports. I have to do that. It's Division 2 sports. It's FCS, what we called 1AA sports. The attendance at the games, the lack of media coverage. If you think there's a lack of media coverage now, we didn't have ESPN Plus in my day. We didn't have HBCU Go. Big shout out to Byron Allen in my day. We didn't have, only thing we had was BET, which would show 7 games a year, no ESPN. I said all that to say, if you weren't in the hunt for the CIAA or the MEAC, you faced a lonely schedule because the country, unfortunately, is geared towards the TV games, the Big Ten, the Power Five. And it's tough for coaches to keep the focus of their teams when you're out of the mainstream like that. So my wish for Coach Massey and the Winston-Salem State program is just to hold to the plow, keep playing hard, and every game builds on to the next game. The last game of season will impact the first game of next season. But shout out to Livingstone. They got a heck of a ball club. They got blue turf. I said that because when somebody makes an investment in your program, it gives the program hope. Now, you might think I'm not superstitious. I'm not talking about the blue turf makes it to where you can't, and we didn't even play them there, I don't think, yesterday. But they had somebody that cared and made an investment in the Blue Bear program, and they're playing like it. So big shout out. I mean, hey,
Big difference from
not
how the
big, not
season
big
started.
shout out, not big shout out. I ain't shouting them
Yeah,
out,
give them a
but
shout out. The best
I'm
fish
giving them credit.
sandwiches. I think still the best fish sandwich in HBCU football. So brother Mac, you know I gotta come for you, man, cause you predicted the Rams to win it all. You were bragging a little bit. Man. You was bragging a little bit. Do you still have hope for the Rams, man? Do you still have hope for the Rams? Shout out to Sparty once again. I love to
Shout out
use.
to Sparty. So I'm, yeah, I still got hope. I'll quote Smokey Robinson and saying it ain't over till it's over,
Oh, I like
and
that.
it
I like
and it ain't over yet because they're 2-2 in the conference, which means they've only lost 2 conference games. They played 4, they've won 2, and they got a quarterback that I believe in. And when I learned that they had lost the game, first thing I went to see was where did it drop them? They're in a battle between Livingstone and Shaw for 3rd place, which means they only stand behind Johnson C. Smith and Fayetteville State for the Southern, which means when you look at the rest of Winston-Salem State schedule, uh,
exactly.
they got Shaw.
Well, I think they can beat Shaw.
I believe they can beat Shaw. They got St. Aug.
They can
I
beat
believe
St.
they
Albans.
could beat St. Aug. Then they got Johnson C. Smith and Fayetteville State.
Ooh.
Those are the 2 games that are gonna tell the tale. So when you look at the bottom half of their schedule, it ain't over yet, and I like that quarterback there. So I'm gonna stick to
Well, I'm
mine.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this, and then we gonna double back to what
We're going
McKee talked about, just the investment into the programs. But Livingstone, which will be our game of the week next week, hosts for homecoming first place Fayetteville State,
Mm.
who barely got by yesterday. Uh, barely got by St. Aug 7-0. So listen, that CI is getting tough. These games are getting closer. Teams are finding the rhythm, like we say. The last 3 weeks, Livingstone has played tough. That might be interesting, and that might cause a jumble in the South. And so we got to keep an eye on that because Johnson C. Smith took a tough loss to Shaw this past weekend, 21-10, which is a convincing victory. So that South is going to be jumbled. And as we see, one thing that shout out to the Broncos, they struggling to score points. They struggling to score points, and I think if you can't put up points, it's gonna be hard to defend that title. Now,
Yep.
just to run through the scores as you see in Fayetteville State beat St. Aug 7-0. Virginia State, my prediction, 44-16 over Bowie. Winston-Salem, Livingstone over Winston State 23-21. Lincoln over Bluefield State 52-44. Shaw over Johnson C. Smith 21-10. And Virginia Union dominant over ECSU 42-20. But let's go back to something because many of us, you know, we want to see our sports thrive. And I'm going off the cuff. So, slow me down if you need to. But we talk about that investment back into our school and not even just talking athletic wise, just in general, the school, because we want to see what Brother Mackey talked about building up hope. And it was funny, I had a conversation with a couple people just about homecoming. And we know we right in the midst of homecoming season. It always starts about the beginning of October, running through about mid-November. I'm gonna throw it here, and I'm gonna start with Brother Mac because I want to hear your opinion on this. But are we utilizing homecoming to the fullest, or to address some of the things that are going on at our beloved schools? You know what I'm saying? Like we know it's about the festivity and celebration, but even too, when you're coming home, we think of family, right? Like you
Right.
coming home to a family. Uh, Do there need to be these discussions during that homecoming week where we sit down and have a workshop on giving and the need to build up the alumni dollars and start projects that help build that hope for the school to thrive and keep moving. What's your Let me start with Mac. Shout out to the UNCG Black Homecoming as well. Go ahead, Mac. Talk to me.
Yeah.
What do you feel about
Because that's coming up. So I, I believe that can help, but then you're starting to talk about changing the mindset of a particular group. But the first question you have to ask is, what is the mindset of that group? Are they willing, in terms of the alumni? What was the culture behind the alumni in the first place? And I always look at that. What is the existing culture that exists? Is it one that is open to the things that you brought up, or is it one that has been a bit closed to it? And all those things I believe are good things because it improves engagement, and with improved engagement, you see an increase in some of the things that McKee brought up earlier. So I do believe that if you kind of induce some of those things in the homecoming, I mean the partying can still stay the partying, but again, when you bring the family together, just going back to the black homecoming in UNCG, like I'm not just gonna see the black folk that I graduated with at this PWI. I'm also going to see some of the other people who were in the trenches with me while we're trying to get those degrees, because that's what they were. You're in the trenches with those folks, and that's what a lot of people remember. So I believe that you can do it. I think it's something that we should do more of to get to improve that engagement in our universities and have people come back and not just be festive for homecoming, but be festive for all home games, or in some cases be festive for away games. So, but I think you got a good point with that one. I think that's an area that should be addressed.
No doubt, Mackie. Talk to me, like how you feel about it. How you feel about it?
Well, I'm gonna quote the book of Rex in Effect. Well, I don't think Rex in Effect said this. I think Mr. Cheeks was a part of this song. A party ain't a party unless it's ran all through.
Leave it to my crew. It's gonna be me and you.
I can't cover that second line, but on the first, because that happens at homecoming too. Let's be honest. Brother D spoke. He insinuated that that second line would definitely transpire in a lobby near you. However, let me say this: when I say it's not a party till it's ran all through, what I mean is what is running all through in this context. Until you have a stake of ownership in the lodging, hotels, until you have some ownership and a stake in the beverages and the food, meaning own a couple chains of restaurants, until you control the spirits, and in this case, I'm not talking about the gospel choir, until you control some of the commerce that is brought forth by the uh, getting together of these groups of alumni, you're not maximizing. It's that old circulation of the dollar piece that you're really making somebody else rich. I mean, the good part is you do all those things that Brother D just mentioned very eloquently, but you don't produce the inertia with finances to bring the school where it could be because your money's going out and not coming back. Real quick point before I go back and pivot to you. North Carolina A&T State University, for example, for all of y'all around the world watching, it's in Greensboro, North Carolina, uh, the biggest HBCU in the country. There's more ingenuity going on in that campus than anywhere, I would argue, on the planet. You have to go to Georgia Tech or MIT to get somewhere to compete. It has a $2.4 billion economic impact on that area of the country, that Piedmont Triad area, and where the campus is. But that $2.4 billion impact is not coming back reciprocally back into the campus in law. Some of it is, but not enough of it is. And that's our challenge with HBCUs, to produce a cohort of owners this time. There have been multiplicity of reasons why that couldn't happen in the past. I'm not beating up on anybody. I'm not sour graping this thing, but it has to happen. You said in the last show, Ben, doesn't matter who started it. Let's do something about it. Doesn't matter why. Sometimes it does matter why when we're doing a history lesson. But I'm just saying, we gotta own some of that $2.4 billion commerce. It's got to come back.
Right. That's right. No doubt. And I want to send this, and then we're gonna highlight our CIAA game of the week. But I you know, one thing, and I gotta re up myself, but I look at like my alumni association. The minimum is $25 for the year. So I'm calling out to all my HBCU alumni.
Call them out, Ben. Call them out, baby. Come on.
When we're carving out our budget to make it back to that homecoming, just carve out that little minimum to join our alumni association.
That's right.
Any little bit helps. And I think that's what we miss because many of us plan to go to homecoming every year. Why not throw an extra $25 or whatever your minimum is for your alumni association Why not carve out that extra little bit to go ahead and get that alumni card for the kids? Took me years to get on it. I just never thought about it, and finally said, I said, I can't be sitting up here talking about what we need and this and that, and I'm not even a member of the alumni association. And then to Mac's point, I'm not even making it down at a certain point to every home game, right? Putting in the attendance. You know, we got alumni in the same city that might not even go to a game until homecoming. So
It's true.
we, yeah. So when we go, if we go there, and we complain about the hot dog price is too high or the facility ain't good. We got to look at ourselves, right? So, you know, I just shout out to everybody. I want you to enjoy your homecoming the way you do. Please adhere to the rules of homecoming. See, Benedict, we sent out about 14 rules to homecoming to make sure everybody's safe and respectful and don't be on anybody's YouTube video or Instagram or TikTok, right? But we got to start thinking about building up the institutions as well, because homecoming means we're coming home. That means family, and family, we got to make sure the house is set on a strong foundation. Amen. No, I had to do that. But anyway, let me move
Hold on,
to.
Ben. Hold on, Ben.
Come on, come on, come on.
Because D's point answered my point about the second half of the Division Two, in this case HBCU, being kind of lackluster if you're not in the top of the brackets. What D said is the whole point. Fan attendance could change that overnight. If you got people watching you play, and it can't just be the families of the players. It's got to be people in those cities that know the value of it.
That's right.
So,
That's
so,
right.
but
Because it.
so, but Key, you just said
Go ahead.
something about value, and I want to make sure, and I'm asking the question to two people who grew up HBCU culture. I'm PWI graduate, but I grew up in Greensboro, but the same as you two. And when you start looking at HBCU homecomings, they call the University of North Carolina A&T State University, GHO. Now there's a battle between that one and Howard, but when I look at the difference between the two and all the other HBCUs, this one has to, this one typically, and I'm talking about A&T's, they have theirs has a little more historical significance that people outside of the alumni get behind because of its significance in terms of civil rights history. Does that have a play in how A&T can have a much higher economic impact to its community than some of the other ones do?
You want
Go
me?
ahead and attack that.
You can go first, Ben. That's a great question.
Please, please, please. Go ahead. You were ready. Go, go.
Okay, so I want to quote. I want to say the book of Ti. D, is it T? Did Ti is Ti the one that said it ain't tricking if you got it?
That was Lil Wayne.
That was Lil Wayne.
That was Lil Wayne.
My fault. To our New Orleans fan base, please forgive me. I didn't mean to do that to the people. No disrespect to New Orleans. So to quote Lil Wayne, it ain't tricking if you got it. What do I mean by that? A lot of people don't pull the cover back to see why certain places prosper and certain don't. Certain don't. Why certain schools in the position that they are in, amongst other factors. A&T, this is a 1892 land grant institution. So
91.
18 what?
91.
1891 land grant institution. So
Right.
the land grant schools, let's start with the PWIs first. They help build the country and take it to a superpower with agricultural research and development, to engineering, to the core building blocks that make a nation. So thanks to the advocacy of men and women who said HBCUs need a equal representation of land grant institutions too, you get the Morrill Act, which creates your Florida A&M, which creates your North Carolina A&T. When you see those A&Ns, that's agriculture and technology, that's agriculture and mechanical. They come with a ton of grant monies that a small liberal HBCU would not be privy to, because you got engineering, because you got an agriculture farm and a program. It's the smaller version of NC State for racial equity. 1965 equal higher education equality act. I'm saying that a little wrong, but it's the legislation that said you got to do for HBCUs what you do for PWIs as best you can. So a lot of the infrastructure at A&T is just so solid with Department of Agriculture money, joint grants that they may do with Georgia Tech. The rich get richer. Howard doesn't have all of that. They don't have the ag money. They don't have the engineering money. So that's a tougher thing for them. Um, I got so into answering the question that I forgot parts of your question. D, I'm sorry. Did that?
Well, let me
Yeah, that,
but let me
that
jump
covered a
in,
lot of
and
it
I
though.
think that is big though, because of that national attention of the sit-ins being instrumental. I think that attracted more students. It attracted Jesse Jackson to transfer to A&T.
It did.
Um, and when your school is placed on the map and significant in history and the to the culture of that city and change of that city, it draws a I guess a sentiment of we're special. So we need to uphold ourselves to that standard. We're changers of society, culture. And I think with that, even to McKees Howard and A&T, because Howard with all the greats, Thurgood Marshall and others, they carry themselves with a particular swagger because they don't let you forget that history, right?
Right.
And everybody comes to that school with that vision of being just as great as those. No knock to other schools, because everybody has great alumni, but it's just certain schools carry on that, and and they walk with a certain swagger. Could be annoying sometimes, but and I think with that, and then when you look where places are situated, you have Bennett College. Shout out to the Bells at Bennett Women's College, HBCU, who kind of ties into to A&T as it pertains to sports, athletics, the homecoming, even UNCG, your school. They have club football, they don't have a six. So they're pretty much A&T the only game in town. You got Guilford College, Greensboro College, who came later, but early on they were pretty much the game in town. So Greensboro could navigate to it. So I think it's time, circumstance, context that contributes to it. But we got to walk around with our chest out. You know what I'm saying? Like about our schools and say, man, hey, we are cut above. And when we walk with that swagger as alumni and we contribute in it, because what you said to those schools, and I'll pass it back, is they have strong alumni bases
Yeah.
and they go everywhere. And when we walk with that swagger, like man, these benefit folks everywhere. And now we set the standard to your point,
Mm.
Mac, the culture.
So,
Uh,
But A&T
speaking
seems
of,
to carry a lot more strength. Like I said, their homecoming isn't built just off the alumni. Like I live in Durham, and when Central has a homecoming, you can't tell. You see what I'm saying? Like it's
Central has
when
homecoming.
when
You
when
what?
North Carolina Central has a homecoming, you can't tell. Like I can't tell. Like I can't go downtown Durham and be like, oh God.
Oh, we done lost our Eagle
But
listeners.
no, no,
Hey,
no, no. I'm
oh,
saying that. I'm saying that in comparison. So for all the Eagle listeners, saying that in comparison to North Carolina A&T,
hey,
where
hey,
the city,
it's a big year for them
but
Eagles
I,
too.
I know, but the city in Greensboro, and everybody knows this, so I'm not bringing up anything that they would argue. the city shut down. From
Yes,
from from North from Midtown on out, the city shut down. Like
it
you,
is.
you you can't move, you can't function. It's one of the biggest events that hits the city all year, if not the biggest event that hits the city all year. And what I'm saying is, because I'm again PWI graduate, did go to Dudley, but I have my family went to Dudley and graduated, and then I started learning more about the history of Dudley graduates and how that runs parallel beside the history of North Carolina A&T and its significance. So there are people that went to Dudley who hold A&T to just as high regard as they do Dudley, and then there are people who just hold the city of Greensboro in a high regard because of what happened as far as the A&T, the Woolworth Four, A&T Four that were at the Woolworth sit-ins, and all those things that are significant to them coming through that time period. So there are people who lock and load behind North Carolina A&T's homecoming who aren't associated or affiliated with the school at all. And that's why I'm asking, was that is that play a bigger part in the difference between how A&T's homecoming is looked at versus, or I mean, even the A&T games, how they're looked at, the home games, how they're looked at versus some of the other universities. Because again, like I said, Shaw's University was this weekend. I ain't know. Like if it was, I mean, you can't leave if you live in a 30-mile radius vicinity of Greensboro and A&T's homecoming is coming through town, you're gonna know because it's hard to miss because of the traffic that it brings in. Kind of like
So,
what
uh,
CIAA was to Charlotte, but bigger.
Yeah, double A was that
Yeah,
for every city before Charlotte. They used the term Winston out, Richmond.
yeah.
CIAA was the big dog, was the conference homecoming, so to
And
speak. But
A&T's
go ahead, Mac,
homecoming
yeah.
did seem
real
bigger.
quick
But go
before we
ahead, McKee.
go to break.
No, that's good stuff. It's like Ben was kind of that's a great question, D, because let me be fair. There's something special about GHO, A&T's homecoming.
Yeah.
I can't just put it on the size of the school. I couldn't just put it on the land grant. Those are great boosters. But you're right, D. I see what you're hammering at. It's something special. I'm gonna throw this out there. You mentioned the sit-ins. Big shout out to David Richmond Jr. Like family with me, Chip, and then Franklin McCain, who just got the. These are the sons of two of the sit-in for. And Franklin McCain Jr. is now the CEO of the United Way here in the Triad area. HBCUs, and I'll be brief on this. They're they're places of what Dr. Cornel West called tragic comic hope. Tragedy and comedy. I'll switch that comedy out with glory or greatness and the hope, meaning they were started under this threat of we don't want you educated at all. So there was physical threat on the founders. And whenever you go through something like that and are able to come out the other end glorious, that's a special environment with all of its issues and the struggles. That's a special place. Deion Sanders knew that. I don't think he's given credit for his knowledge of the history. And we need to talk quickly about, y'all mentioned swagger. What y'all think about Deion correcting that reporter in that press conference the other day about where he graduated from? But let me finish this off real quick. The sit-in four went from hated and ostracized. If you look before 1985, the sit-in four were persona non grata in Greensboro, North Carolina. They were not welcome. They couldn't get jobs. They had to move to other places in the country because the South was so upset at those four young A&T students that changed the world. So 1985, the world changes. Now they're heroes. That's kind of the HBCU history too. They went from being ostracized and scorned going through periods of no money, but they survived. And when they came out the other end, you just have to get some of that HBCU water every now and then. And it doesn't matter if you graduated from there. It's a welcoming place, and the over half of probably 3/4 of the faculty did not graduate from there, but they're welcomed and they're brought in. You were about to say, and would y'all please give a little snippet on what you thought of Dion correcting that reporter who said, y'all know what she said.
What? Hold on. Before we do that, before we do that, let me do one thing, cause you know, shout out. Just want to remind everybody. First of all, like the show if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook. Like the show, but you can find us on Facebook. Make sure you go to Facebook. You can find us there at Names Are Not Important with Mac and Free. You can also go to the Names Are Not Important channel on YouTube to check out uh, clips of the other shows and our Friday Night Lives. But you can also go to Instagram and check us out at Mac and Free. So please hit us up, leave us questions, thoughts, comments. If you like what we say, don't like what we say, do it. We're not trying to be controversial. We're just trying to have fun and have good conversation. So I just wanted to take time to do that. All right, let's proceed with the question. Mac, I'll let you go first. What do you think about D correcting? I mean, Dion. Calling him D like he my homie like this.
It,
I
it,
know,
it
I know
was.
Prime. I know Prime.
I think it was perfect because
Mm,
there are people who, including Google, if you Google the words Deion Sanders grad, the first thing pops up is Florida State University. He didn't
mm,
graduate from Florida State,
mm,
and a lot of people don't know that. But he went back and I started catching wind of this because I didn't know until after his Hall of Fame speech. But he went back to college and got a degree at Talladega, and he was proud of that degree because he did it for his mom. Now,
mm.
when someone comes up and says you're a Florida State graduate and you know you didn't graduate from there, but you know you got a degree sitting on your mantle, you're gonna correct it. Like if somebody was like, "Yeah, you A&T graduate," like, nah. Then I turned into Seal Johnson. Is it because I'm black? Like, are you assuming that I went to A&T because I'm from Greensboro and I'm black? Somebody tell me. So I'm glad he did it, and I appreciate that he did it because there are people who, and honestly, if you do a little homework, you know that he came out of Florida State too early to graduate from there. So to believe that he was a graduate of Florida State means you didn't do any homework on him at all to even know that he graduated. It's like asking did Shaq graduate from LSU?
I believe so.
I think he did, but it was eventually. But again, it's like Shaq is a bad example. Chris Paul is not because Chris Paul didn't graduate from Wake Forest. And a lot of people don't know that. Chris Paul graduated from Winston State. And there's a you know what I mean? There's a difference between that and what, but the immediate because of it also shows the allure of what what the larger institutions have over a lot of the smaller ones, because Winston-Salem State and Wake Forest are, I don't even think those two schools are more than 5 miles away from each other. It may be somewhere between maybe 5 and 8, but they're not far from each other. But the assumption that Chris graduated from Wake Forest is because it's where he played, it's where people saw him on TV, and goes back to your point earlier, McKee, where very early on in the show, where you're not seeing them on ESPN or ESPN Plus, so you're not getting a lot of the same coverage, and as a result, that there are people now who probably know what Talladega College is because he corrected it, and I think that was a good thing about it. that correction was needed.
Hmm.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this and be brief. I think it was good to see because he could have just simply corrected, said, "No, I'm not a Florida State graduate," and moved on. But he was adamant in saying, "Yo, I went to Talladega. I'm proud of it." Um, and it further builds to the association with HBCUs, which brings notoriety to Max Point. And I think many more athletes, because I know there's many more out there that had to do that because they might have had a longer pace or found their niche at smaller schools, not just HBCUs, but smaller schools somewhere else. But and those schools don't get as much of the love as they should. But I think it was beautiful to see that, to put Talladega on people's minds, so that people can find out about the institution, and who knows, it might spark many others to look it up, see the wonderful programs there, and choose to attend there. So that's the hopes. Now, before we take a little break, it look like we're gonna go past the big out because we got to get into the conference that the show is named after, MEAC'n Up. But I wanted to leave on this because I came of the week. There was a big matchup, CIAA, Bowie State, Virginia State, and Virginia State. Did I say they were my pick to win it all?
And you look like you're gonna be
Virginia
right.
State, Virginia State put that thing on 'em. 44-16. And one thing that Virginia State has been consistent with is putting up points. They are putting up points against anybody. It don't matter who you bring. They are putting up, as we used to call it at Benedict down in South Carolina, points. They putting up points. All right. Now we talk about that in spades. What the points look like, but and we'll get into that. Uh, 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 should every HBCU offer a spade scholarship? We're gonna get into that topic next week. But anyway, uh, because brothers would get masters in it. But anyway,
Hey, shout out
uh,
to student unions. Shout out to
shout
student
out to student
unions.
unions, student dorm lounges. Well, we get it in.
Yeah.
Uh, but we'll discuss that on the next show. But uh, just real quick, are there any changes in the predictions? I know. McKee. I know you had Fayetteville State meeting. You went with Union. Did you go with Union? Are you still feeling strong in that, or has anything changed?
Yeah. Uh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, a lot has changed. Virginia, yeah, Virginia State is emerging as the power up north. I think when Fayetteville State, when a school establishes itself as kind of the creme de la creme, Virginia State is still going to have to. Let's say they end up in the conference championship with them, they'll have to get over the hump still because all roads lead through Murchison Road or off Murchison Road in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Still,
Merc. Shout out to the Merc.
yes.
Mac, any changes you had? I thought didn't you have Bowie State? Oh, Mac, you might have Bowie State. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. Mac, any changes in your thoughts, or what? How do you feel? I think Virginia State's out to prove a point. They beat Norfolk State to open the season, FCS opponent, and they just carried that momentum through, and they are showing no mercy to opponents. Talk to me.
I mean it. I think they're going. They may very well in win the whole thing. I'm still giving Winston-Salem State some hope because that's where I started. So I'm gonna stick with it. But yeah, like they're looking like the powerhouse in the CIAA this year.
They are, and I want to say I don't think they've scored any less than 33. Well, no, when they played Tusculum and they only put up 21, but they are truly. But other than that, 33 is about the lowest you're gonna catch them. They put up numbers, and So they putting together a press season, but what still lurks at the end of that season is that rivalry with Virginia Union, which is going to be very interesting because anything goes in a rivalry. But with that, as we started to do, we're gonna take a little pause before we go into the MEAC real quick and maybe some other topics. This might turn into the MEAC hour and a half. We'll see MEACing up. But as we like to do, we highlight HBCU grads. When we did this last week, we had Eric Roberson, Howard grad. Now, so we can win our Central fans back, we go we gonna go to none other celebrating 20 years in the game and the block party better known as Made in Durham. We gonna go to little brother, good clothes. Let's go.
LB.
LB fam. All right. That was the good close instrumental. And we know why we had to do that. But shout out to little brother Fonte and rapper Big Proof, North Carolina Central love in the building. So, Brother Mackey, let's transition over to MEAC, the namesake of the show, MEACing Up. And we're gonna get Brother Mac back in. I think he having some technical issues. But let's start off with those North Carolina Central Eagles, man. Another impressive performance going on the road, taking on another strong opponent, the 25th ranked in the FCS polls, Elon Phoenix. Now, Central is now number 14, but nevertheless, going on the road, in-state rival, not many miles that separate them, and they went in. Uh, had some adversity early. Elon jumped out on them 10-0, but then they kept composing and showed that they are legitimate and took control of the game, scored 28 straight points, and ended up winning 34-23. Um, McKee, I mean, is anybody touching the Eagles until the Celebration Bowl?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna speak to the 30,000 feet counterpart of that. But I did get a chance to see that game. It was an impressive showing by North Carolina Central, and what was really impressive about it was the balance of the offense. For example, you cannot load up on Central in one area and not expect to be hurt by the other area. And all things
Mm.
start with that phenomenal quarterback they have. This young man is tough as nails. He can pass as well as run, uh, and he just makes plays with his legs, his arm. They're playing with an incredible amount of confidence, which is a credit to their head coach, who is a very confident and he puts the work in. We talked about them training with the fire department in Durham, North Carolina this summer, and a fire department needs to hose them down because those Eagles are on fire. Let me say this real quick. Um, I see a evolution of HBCU football in this way. We all remember, let's keep it real here. Anytime you got a victory, I don't care if that team was owing whatever, if it was from a PWI conference, a predominantly white institution, and you got a win, that was major. And
Yeah.
when that happened, we would mark it in red. We would celebrate, pop bottles of ginger ale. I mean, we would. But now, uh, counter to D's theory, if the talent goes, so do the wins. And
Yeah.
D said that a while back. It's just a matter of talent. So, great win for HBCU ball.
And just a few scores, and then Mac, I'll get your take. But as we said, NCCU 34, Elon 23, Delaware State 44, Central Connecticut State 51, UV Lynchburg 6, or VU Lynchburg, South Carolina State, the Bulldogs 56. And then we're going to come back to Howard because Howard was our game of the week for the MEAC because the MEAC, once again, is still not in conference play. Um, but I believe they get in conference play next week and they finish out the season. So we'll see. We'll see where these teams measure up in conference, um, and see how the road goes. Because Howard is quietly showing us who they are, and they played some tough games, stepping up against FBS opponents. Good, and ups against CS opponents. So, oh, don't know if Central has an easy road. Mac, what say you? You think the Eagles will get the wings clipped?
We're talking next week.
No, just in general.
Nah, not in this conference. Like this, it's theirs to lose. I think Howard could have something to say about it because I mean, that quiet as kept. Howard went up and played Northwestern this week, and they lost that.
Well, hold on, man. That's our game of the week. Stop it.
Oh
See,
yeah,
see,
but
see.
okay,
You
so
got
I'll hold off.
see,
But the results
see.
of that
Hold on.
game,
Hold on.
the results of that game have me believing that Howard might be able to have some say so. But right now, I'm not moving away from Central. It's theirs to lose.
Yeah, yeah. They have been impressive,
Yeah.
man. And you thought there might be some shell shock from that tough road loss at UCLA, but they came back, did what they were supposed to do against Mississippi Valley State. Came back, got a tough win. So they've been through that adversity, that nail biter with Campbell. And now at Elon, a tough ranked Elon team, they looked impressive. I think Morgan State might give them a tough game because I think Morgan once again started the season strong, lost that game in Akron in the last seconds, and I don't think they've recovered. But a week off, they come back. Hey, Central's got a target on their back, defending MEAC champs. You know, hey, we'll see what happens. But I also don't want to sleep on a well-tested, well-coached South Carolina State Bulldog team. I know, McKee, you got attachment to it. How do you feel the Bulldogs in the games they're supposed to handle? They've done what they're supposed to do. Big wins against the Citadel, VU Lynchburg. Uh, they've been tested. I think the toughest schedule in college football maybe this year, man. But do they have enough for Central? Do the Bulldogs have enough?
Well,
Can they bite and take down the Birds?
I mean, anybody that's seen South Carolina State's bus, or the new tractor trailer that they have that goes with the team on away games, the conference championships, they don't have enough tractor trailer to put them on. And I
Okay.
said that not to brag as a bulldog myself, but I said that to say um, teams with a perennial history of winning are always in the game. You
Yeah.
have to really defeat them because they have that historical memory. But I'll say this about North Carolina Central. Against Elon this Saturday, as you said, they showed extra gear. they they show they and they don't beat themselves. They do not make a lot of mistakes. They don't leave the ball on the ground. They don't have high penalty numbers, and they have extra gear that I don't think they're that championship drive type of team. Uh, Meaning that if you leave them with the ball with 3 seconds left, they'll drive it all the way down and tie you or beat you. I just think they have that kind of program right now. Uh, but you could never count South Carolina State out. No, never could. It's going to be a
And
fun
I want
MEAC schedule. It's going to be a fun MEAC
it
schedule.
because Norfolk is nothing to sleep on, and uh, I think they can be challenged by any of the other 5 teams. But it's just that resiliency, that discipline, as you spoke of, is what stands out. But I want to give a further shout out as you talked about the phenomenal play of their senior quarterback, Davius Richard, and he's a Florida boy. Shout out to the Belle Glade area, Belle Glade, Florida, uh, Glade Central down there. I just want to say this shout out. My first roommate at Benedict College, and believe it or not, his name was Dwayne Wade. Can I say that on it? But D Wade was from Belle Glade, so I got love for Belle Glade. He was a linebacker, but
Hey,
so shout out to Belle Glade. He was the first Dwayne Wade I had heard
hey,
of.
you ain't gonna do his signature. Didn't he have a
You
signature?
know Imma do Imma do his signature. And when he would get in the cab with the rest of the Florida boys, him and the Glaze and the Bell Glaze boys would get in there and say, "Skaggy."
You got to be in the
And then you
dormitory to
just hear
know
it coming from all parts of the "Skaggy,
that's that's dormitory stuff, baby. That you gotta live on campus to know about that.
That's right. That's right. So shout out to Bill Glaze. But his play has been phenomenal. I mean, just having senior leadership, that experience back there. When you have that in your leader and you know you're gonna get consistent, dominant efforts from that, your team follows suit. So when your guy that has the ball 100% of the time making the decisions is on point and doing, you're gonna be successful. You know. So I- you know, I just hope the swag ready to try to dethrone them. I hope the swag is ready. All right. But we'll see. But we kind of reaching an hour and I don't want to forget, one thing just for those that might be catching us for the first time, this is me acting up where we kind of discuss football as it relates to the MEAC conference as well as the CIAA, just to show some love. But it's spawned out of a need to do this for these two conferences more on the East Coast, because we saw the example led by our brothers down there, Swack and a Fool. So we want to shout out those brothers and the great job they're doing, bringing love and attention, knowledge about the SWAC conference down there, uh, and they're the inspiration for this. You know what I'm saying? So we want to give them brothers a shout out and give them their due. And SWAC and the fool, we big fans. Salute, shout out. So we said we got to do something for the MEAC and the CIAA because of our ties and connections to it. So that being said, the other facet of this show, you see, we get into some topics that might not be specifically related to the gameplay, but a thing that we're adamant about is also highlighting the excellence of these institutions outside the lines of the field or the court or arena or whatever, and that is in the academic excellence. So we like to highlight a particular school and something that they're doing to be innovative and change the world. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pass the mic to Brother Mackey for our highlight, our academic highlight. Who you got, Brother Mackey?
Today's academic highlight, we are featuring CIAA member school Shaw University as they partner with the U.S. Commerce Department for Global Business, and they have a resource center right on campus. The oldest historically black college in the South is now home to a new resource for small businesses trying to grow globally, trying to grow globally. Raleigh Shaw University began a new partnership with the International Trade Administration, a federal agency tasked with helping American businesses expand into foreign markets. The partnership with Shaw brings the potential for big impacts for budding black businesses. Quote, we were always the only or the youngest black people in the room anyway, said Larry Yan, co-founder and president of Cyber Alliance. It's been 4 years since Jan and his partner Kendra Felder turned the Raleigh-based cybersecurity firm into a global business. Big shout out to Mr. Larry Yan and the Cyber Alliance. He's a North Carolina Central graduate himself. And big shout out to the Shaw University Bears. They are indeed a global institution.
No doubt, no doubt. And to that, before we close out, Mackey, I just want your insight because that is one of your passions. Um, is it fair to say global literacy or the intent of our schools to get more connected globally and internationally? Kind of, kind of touch on that. I don't, I know this is on the spot, brother, but touch on that, like where it's going, and if you want to hit on the stuff you're doing with several HBCUs, that's on you, brother. But it kind of speaks to that global becoming global.
Well, my daughter told me one time, she said, Dad, you were never happier than when you were with the Phelps Stokes Fund. And to your point, what they did for 100 years is expand international education and international travel opportunities to HBCU students that sometimes don't have, their schools may not have the resources to have robust global programming, be it study abroad, Fulbright exchanges of the like. I used to do a thing with our students when I'd speak there, and I still do this, and I called it a global latte for all of the people that don't think that globalization is worth knowing. Well, let's take this cup of latte. The top of this cup is plastic that was produced in Singapore. The little stick that keeps your latte warm, this was produced in Seattle, Washington at a plastics plant. The paper of the cup was produced at a sawmill in Ontario, Canada. The milk in my latte was produced by a cow farm in Iowa, and the coffee beans came to us all the way from Ethiopia. So that's a global cup of latte. But if you don't have the knowledge of that, you don't know how to apply for those jobs, get involved in that level of commerce, to do what we talked about earlier and what Brother D spoke to, which is make our impact known on a global scale financially and all those good things. So Yeah, that's what we do. Big shout out to the North Carolina Consortium for International and Intercultural Education, which fosters international programming, education, and spreads opportunities to North Carolina HBCUs of a global nature. So thank you for those few minutes. And would one of you brothers like to shout out uh, the conference that we're all a part of in a few days?
Go ahead, brother Mac, because you done the dope marketing
Yeah.
and putting together everything.
So
Go
we're
ahead,
we're
Mac.
doing the 2023 Youth Leadership Conference, and it's open to all youth from middle school age up through high school. The purpose is to focus on how to build confidence through building a leadership and life skills and entrepreneurship. And what was the other subject that we were talking about? It was building your building a positive self image to the people outside of yourself. The importance of that. So we're focusing on that this week, and that is on Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon. So it's 2 hours, has three great speakers. Malcolm Teasdale, the director of the Believe to Achieve program, entrepreneur, business owner Harry Reeves, and NBA agent and another entrepreneur, Kevin Graves. So they're speaking to the youth on Friday. You can attend either in person here at the North Carolina Boys and Girls Club, Salvation Army Boys and Girls Club off Austin Avenue in Durham, or you can just simply watch on YouTube, Facebook, or you can attach through Zoom. So there's a multitude of ways that you can do it. It is 2023. You don't have to come to everything in person. You can sit at home and watch it on your phone now if you want to. So
No
shout
doubt.
outs
Hey,
to that.
hey, hey. And if
And
you
we'll have the advertisements going out on the Facebook page. Names are not important, as well as uh, the nonprofit I co-founded, Clergy for Cures, as well as William McKee. Um, and we'll be getting the information out and sharing it. But that is next Saturday, October 14th, 10 to 12. Go ahead, McKee. You had something?
and if you North Carolina Central Eagles see Brother D in the vicinity, he just made an analysis. He loves y'all. He don't talk his head off about his comment. He we gotta do this. What we do.
This is what we do. And so I want to say please, and just shout out for these brothers I'm sharing the stage with. Brother Mac, he's kind of being modest, but he has launched a program. Uh, well, let's start. He launched a basketball program, the Bull City Bruins, where he's mentoring young men through coaching and teaching them the game and skills. And he's launched a program for leadership, focused on leadership, called I Am Dope, Developing Ownership of Personal Empowerment, which is geared and forefronted these workshops and stuff, providing stuff that, our youth may not be able to get in school or may not have access to. So shout out to I Am Dope, Brother William McKee with McKee Mediation, doing his thing. The McKee Scholarship Fund, where they've aided several young up and coming scholars with a scholarship reward to continue their education and further their education and growth. So these brothers are doing big things. And then shout out to the young leaders of the Kenneth A. Free Senior Leadership Academy, which started in 2021. So, you know, aside from talking about the MEAC and the CIAA, we're trying to get into other things and try to help build up the community as well. So please support our efforts in that as well, not just the show. All right, because the love goes way beyond these YouTube streets.
This is true. This is true.
But please share it out. And somebody get this show to Shannon Sharp, man. We trying to get on this podcast network. But anyway, uh, any last shout outs before we break out? Anybody got anything else before we break?
Shout out to the guest speakers coming again, Harry Reeves, Malcolm Tisdale, Kevin Graves. Shout out to Joshua Dorsett for the partnership to hold the location over. He's the director over at Salvation Army Boys and Girls Club. Shout out Stella McDonald for all the work that she's done
Yes,
for this.
yes,
And just shout out to y'all for watching. We appreciate
yeah,
it.
no
No.
doubt.
And just remember, it's big boy season. When it's
Ah.
cold outside.
Oh Lord. Back it with
Oh, me.
there you have it. There you have it. We call him Macy Haley, y'all. Mackie, you got something.
How can you say anything after that? I mean, how can you follow that up, man?
I was trying to move it. He called me in mid move. I was like, Mackie, what?
I love that though. I love that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love that. That
yeah.
was tight. That was tight. Oh me.
Well,
Oh man.
well, if there's nothing else, I know we talked about it, but we had some other stuff going on. But next week we're gonna kind of get in as these conferences start to get in the middle of the conference play, and we get geared towards who's gonna prevail, so they can go to the end prize, which is achieving championships and births to the wonderful bowls that are attached to these institutions, and that's the Celebration Bowl and now the Florida Beach Bowl. So we'll kind of get into that next week, and we'll have guests none other than my brother, Ken Free Jr., who's going to come in and help us guide a conversation on the history of the bowls and some of the precedents that were set with these bowls that we've come to know and celebrate now in the present. But we're going to kind of talk about the history and the role of my father in many of those bowl games and stuff like that. And hopefully the future of it. We can see more and more and classics continuing these classics and games popping up. So with that, hey man, we appreciate y'all checking us out and hanging with us. Please go to the Facebook page, the Instagram page, and show us love. And then we'll catch you. Oh, last Friday nights. Friday nights, catch us on Names Are Not Important, YouTube, Facebook for on Friday nights for Names Are Not Important with Mac and Free. So we'll see you Friday, and then we'll see you next Sunday. Y'all have a blessed week. We out.